due to an unfortunate set of circumstances and technical issues, I lost 2 frames of video where I highlighted the armor portions, which is really unfortunate because that was one of the best parts of the tutorial. But what I did was I started with Wazdaka Red, and I highlighted and lined the edges of the armor. And then I moved on to Evil Sun Scarlet, where I highlighted the light points. You find your light source, which for me is always to the top right hand portion of the model, and I lined the highlighted areas. What follows is the very tail end of that highlighting video, and all I had left of the video to capture.
Okay, now we're going to move on to some more detail in the armor and the kind of the Aquila and that little extra shield looking bit that's on the shoulder and on the legs. And we're really going to kind of focus on those fine detail areas now. We're going to water down some mithril silver. By watering it down, it allows those undercolors that we laid in before kind of peek through underneath a little bit. We don't want to undo all that work. Okay, now into the shoulder pad. We're going to line the edge of that cross with silver. We want a darker shade of gold to sit in underneath. We want the silver to sit on these outside portions.
We start to see how the silver against the gold really creates a contrast in colors, which is really what I'm looking for these models.
The same thing for this little guy right here. On his gauntlet. Alright, that's looking good. It's starting to get a little shaky, so I'm going to go ahead and pause for a moment or two, rest my back and my hands, which start getting shaky. It's kind of your body's little telling you, hey, it's time to take a break. So I'm gonna get me a drink, let my camera charge up, and we'll be back in a little bit. Go ahead and just kind of clean up the rest of these details, it looks like. Go ahead and do some highlighting on the loincloth here. Get these little banners, all these little teardrops need to be done. I think we're gonna redo some of the cables going in, and then it'll be time to start doing the power look on the rest of it, and then kind of cleaning up any little mistakes we find along the way. So let's just go ahead and get into it.
It was at this point that I decided that I wanted the scope to be in bolt gunmetal as well. You know, sometimes I get partway through a project and I'll decide I want to change, and that's what happened here. At this point, it was time to start doing the details and all those little blood drops all over this guy. There's about 100 blood drops on this guy. So we started them just like the detailing and the outlining and shading with the Wazdaka Red, and later we'll go over those and find our highlight points with the Evil Sun Scarlet. And here's where we start on the Evil Sun Scarlet. And now we move along to a little mithril silver on the other metallic parts that we may have missed, and highlighting also other metallic parts around the gold, around the gun, and around the loincloth.
I think I've got pretty much, for the most part, the highlights and the details where I want them. We're going to move on to the face and hair. So before we do the kind of that armored piece on his face right there, that's a little bit of armor and like a sight. We're going to do the face and the hair, get those kind of settled. So we're going to start with a foundation color called Deneb Stone.
Remember earlier we did a brown wash underneath all of this paint, and I'm really hoping that brown wash will create those drop shadows underneath the paint layers we're doing here. As you can see, we also used some of that Deneb stone on some of the awards and ribbons, and we also put in a little ultramarine blue to kind of add some contrast and color on those ribbons and make them stand out.
Okay, now we're going to move on to his hair. I always envision these guys with golden locks. That's how they usually show them in the... I'm trying to use a little sunburst yellow.
Now when doing hair, I like using a little kind of a swirl technique, and I don't mind if I see the brush strokes in the yellow, because yellow seems hard to use, but the brush strokes really give you that illusion of hair.
Now for his face, we'll go with a little bleached bone, kind of that tannish, a little lighter on the tan color for his face.
Now we're just going to dry brush this bleached bone in, allow some of that Deneb stone to kind of peek through just a little bit.
Now a little Talarn flesh. I think we're ready to move into that little eyepiece. We're going to do this in some bolt gunmetal. Now that we got the color on the face and everything, I think the way we want it, what we need to do now is put more of those little drop shadows back in there. So we need to cover them up a little bit. Okay, now that we've got the face kind of covered and the hair covered, and go back and then with some this little brown color. I think I've got a lot of these details where I want them. So what I'm going to do is, I promised you, I'm going to show you how I do these power effects. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a Hawk turquoise. It's turquoise color.